So, everyone, we are going to start the last part of this first day of DevConf, lightning talks. Each speaker has 10 minutes, all time included. We will continue till the end, and then it's done for today. Thanks for attending. Hope we will enjoy the next days.
Okay, so let's make this quick so we can all call it a day. That's my yearly what are we doing in RPM talk. As you may have noticed, we've pushed RPM 4.13 into Fedora last year, which comes with a pretty long list of changes. So I'm only going over the most notably. One of them are file triggers. I don't know who has already heard of file triggers. Okay, it's pretty good. They're actually already used in RPM in Fedora. The next thing that's not so much used yet is Boolean dependencies, which have just made it into RPM also. They're basically the extension of the weak dependencies we pushed in there last year. There are people working on it, but it's not there yet. The third bigger new feature, which is, as far as I know, not used anywhere already, is support for security IMA file attributes. That's basically support for trusted computing on the kernel level, file system level thing. So if you actually have managed to boot into a trusted kernel, you can then make sure the kernel only reads files which are also trusted. So some guy, or actually gal from IBM has been working on that. I don't know if anybody's actually interested to putting this into the real world. Maybe IBM is. So if anyone wants to have trusted computing in Fedora, we support it now. Go for it. And in addition to these three big things, we have a huge number of smaller stuff. I've only listed the stuff that's maybe more interesting for packagers or users. We've added a remove path post fixes, which is basically a setting which allows you to cut off the names of files. This is useful to create subpackages which have conflicting files in them. The problem is, as RPM has basically one tree of files which it packages into subpackages, it's not possible to have the file in multiple subpackages with different content. For example, having different config files in subpackages that are pre-configured for different use cases. And that's pretty annoying, and I think Harald Heuer has, and a couple of other guys have been nagging about this, so that's basically a band-aid to allow this. So it's basically you give a postfix for the names that is cut off, and then you can basically use the remaining name in the subpackages. Then we have new checks for the encoding of the spec file, something a lot of people have wanted to have for quite a while, because there are still spec files out there which are not properly UTF-8 encoded. So, and I think it's still disabled, or it just gives a warning right now. So I don't know. At some point we are going to switch that to enforcing, and it will basically prevent RPM build from building packages which have non-proper encodings in them. We also have enabled the braces expansion for the globbing, minor thing, but you can use it in the file list, for example. And we've extended RPM build with a new parameter, so you can do all build steps directly from an SRPM. So R for rebuild. You already could rebuild and source RPM directly, but you could only basically do a full rebuild and not build into the older stages. That's supported now. We also added ROT requirements and all the other queries for the weak dependencies, which we somehow missed last year when we added weak dependencies. Yeah. I don't know. I must must have looked elsewhere. We also switched the signing over to use pin entry, more or less because pin entry is that you are no longer allowed to call us with the command line parameters. So now it's actually GPG that changed to no longer allow passing the password on the command line, and so we had to switch this over. That's done now. I hope there's no too many problems with that. I know that a couple of other distributions had issues with not having the proper version of GPG and pin entry lying around. We now learn from unused macros, and there's a longer list of other stuff we fixed. There's a release note, so if you're interested. Okay, 5 minutes. So then we've continued with development. The big feature we are working on right now is getting stabilized is the new database format. Some of you might haven't seen it on the mailing list with a huge discussion. Problem is that the Berkeley DB we are using now has been bought up by Oracle, and they changed the license for the new version, and there's all this politics involved, and so we have to move away from that, basically. Another thing that might be interesting, maybe not so much for Fedora, but for other people that are building packages, is multi-threaded exec compression. We have had some customers who had well set up continuous integration, which worked well by compiling on like 64 processors, which was quick and fast until you have to compress the RPM, which is then single-threaded and takes a while if the package is big enough. So we have now a solution for this, and it's coming up in the next release.
Is it compression and decompression?
I think it's only. It's currently, so far, as far as I know, it's now only compression. I think decompression is, for one, fast enough, and on the other hand, you need to read it sequentially anyway, so there's not. This might create problems with delta RPMs, actually. But I hope I have an intern that I can put on the task to check and make sure delta RPMs will continue to work. There's all kind of tricky stuff, like being able to actually reproduce the deltas bit, or to recreate the package in a bit by bit compatible way. Okay, need to hurry up a bit. So there's a new dependency generator written in Python, which comes in from the Mandriva crowd. There's been some discussion. It's not 100% finalized how it's going to be, but that's coming up. And there's a lot of smaller fixes, so they're not going to be that much big changes, but more small bug fixes and all kind of cleanup. So we have basically started to do a bug fixing Friday to get down with the number of tickets we have in Fedora and on our own bug tracker. Another interesting thing that we just added recently and backported to Fedora is we made missing OK, which used to be basically config missing OK, so you could have config files that are you allowed to delete without getting an error with verify. So we promoted missing OK to a full featured file attribute. The glibc people are currently needing this to get their language packages done, as they, for some reason, have files they want to merge in their language databases somehow. Details to ask some glibc people. So that's what we're doing right now. What else? We actually not moved, but we have cloned our repository to GitHub. This has worked out very well for us. So we are getting a lot of contributions right now. We have to set aside a day a week to go over all the pull requests and get them merged and reviewed. For now, a lot of these contributions are outside from the Fedora world, so I want to urge you to have a look and make sure that not only the other distributions are actually pushing stuff in there without anyone else noticing or caring. So that's what's happening. How many minutes do I have left? One. Then I'm done.
So the next one, DNF workshop.
Ha. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, hello. I'm Šilhan, and now we are moving one layer up from RPM to DNF. In my talk, I will cover what we have done from previous year up until now, and also I will reveal some future plans for DNF. So DNF's main goal is still to maintain the compatibility with YAM. And so far we have YAM utils almost fully compatible with DNF plugins. So you can search for its counterpart via manual page YAM to DNF. We have also added dimensions about DNF in Fedora project and Fedora wiki pages. So almost every use case is covered in DNF snippet code as well. For those of you who are still using YAM, I have a good news for you. You can switch to DNF immediately. You can just type DNF migrate, and it would transfer all your history and other metadata from YAM to DNF. The status of the packages relying on YAM, there are only 13 packages. The rest of the packages were ported to DNF, and in Fedora base image there is no package which requires YAM. The tool FedUp, which takes care of Fedora upgrade to the next version, uses now DNF backend. That means that it no longer ignores package conflicts, and you could be able to boot up again. Okay, let's look at the new features that happened in DNF. We introduced new mark command. Let's say you install package A, which requires package B. You actually use these two packages, and then you decide you want to remove package A. Then you notice that package B is also getting uninstalled. To prevent this, you can type DNF mark install package B, and it will stay installed until you decide to remove it explicitly. DNF has full weak dependency support, so you can.
I opened a bug about it.
So you can query in DNF repo query for it. It has --, suggest, enhances, supplements, and what enhances, and so on switches. DNF also has two states, how it threads weak dependencies. By default, it installs all recommended packages, but you can turn that behavior off if you want to keep your system minimal. You just have to set to full install weak deps in DNF config option in configuration file. I think I must say that DNF is more user-friendly with regard to user experience. It provides you with some hints like that showing you that some packages were skipped and how to resolve some conflicts. We also, for package maintainers, describe the rules or actually wrote a draft how they can prefer some package to another by using weak dependencies or versioned provides. Okay, now let's look for the plan to the next year. DNF so far is using 4 C libraries, while YAM was written entirely in Python. Recently, we have merged DNF C library with PackageKit library, and we are planning to move more parts from DNF to C code base. We would like to also, for package maintainers, describe some rules and provide them solutions with examples how they can resolve some packaging problems with the use of cool stuff from RPM like weak and rich dependencies. And the last thing, but not the last thing, we would like to DNF to actually provide more verbose output when you are dealing with some package conflicts and you want to know what happened inside the dependency solver. That's for the plans. Now I would like to invite you to the talk which has the title Developers QEs of Themselves. And as the title says, it's mainly targeted for upstream developers who has no QEs and would like to deliver stable releases of their application with minimal effort. So you are free to go there. We will explain our continuous integration workflow, which components we have used there. It will be on Sunday at 13:10. Do you have any questions?
So can you skip the quick slide? So output verbose dependency resolution, you plan it to make only on when something breaks on, can be this I do DNF upgrade and then let it output like DNF.
No. Only when there's conflict and transaction cannot be resolved.
Because sometimes
or
there are no conflict, I would like to see why those packages are chosen.
Yeah, then you can
pick, for example.
Then you can switch it on in verbose mode. It will be shown.
It didn't give me this information.
Yeah, that's the future plan. Any other questions?
When you say Docker packaging, is that in wiki or in applications or where?
It will be probably some draft, packaging draft. Yeah?
DNF and CentOS, is it possible to run DNF on CentOS, or are there further dependencies?
You can actually use version from EPL 7, I think. Yeah, but there's only version I think 0.64. Any other questions? Okay.
When will the advisory switch to install a specific update finally be implemented? Because there is a request in Paxilia to implement this, but still it has, and it was finally agreed by someone from your team. I don't know who it was that it should be implemented, but it's not. Doesn't look like it's being actively worked on. And I think that's really a big missing feature for people who want to test individual updates from updates testing. And right now, that's one reason why people still need to use YAM, because it's YAM supports this.
Like you mean?
You give a specific update ID and...
Excuse me, that's being covered by the work on one security plugin, so yeah, it's being worked on.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you for your attention.
The extended monitor. It's in extended mode.
Hello? Okay, I'm not going to talk further up from DNF, but it is a completely different thing. I'm going to talk about release engineering. Before I start my talk, I would like to show you this short clip, which always kind of makes me smile. 1 second, sorry. Yeah. So this is something when I hear release thing, I kind of remember this, the crazy baby, which is kind of trained hard, and she is the one to catch that. So let me move on. So why I'm a release engineer? Thank you. I come from the development background, and I also have an experience as release and configuration manager, and I also worked in customer support. So what I realized while I handled all this role is I like solving customer problems, and I would like to dive into the problem and technically see what is going wrong. And also I was passionate about delivery and release processes. So that's when I kind of discovered release engineer is kind of a role which enables me to do all these things. So that's why I am here. And so what do you have in store? As in, what is in store for you when you become a release engineer? What opportunities it opens? So from my experience, what I understand, being a release engineer at Red Hat, it has given me an opportunity to develop tools which can be leveraged for the release, faster release process. And you will get to work with a bunch of inspired people, and you collaborate with teams, which is going to expand your knowledge about the product or the project. And you will get a broader idea about how the product is going to be delivered to the customer, how can I make it accessible to the customer, and other parameters like quality and security of the product. So that's I think it opens up a lot of opportunities, and it can be at your capacity. You can grow in to further in any capacity. Being a release engineer, you will work with multiple products, and you will work with multiple teams, and it will give you a thought about how the processes that we have, how we can leverage it across the products. So you will be thinking towards that, and it's kind of a constant process. It is reaching that maturity, and you will think of innovative options of having different tools, how we can make the installation easy, packaging easy, and how to make the delivery process kind of really streamlined and think in different ways. So it opens up different opportunities for you. So what does release engineering do? So I would like to talk about my daily routine, how it looks like. So as a release engineer, broadly, if I categorize, your responsibilities would be build and packaging, and content management, and delivery into customer environments, and also to the test environments where the developer wants to test it, or the QA wants to test it. And this will, it also means that release engineer will be engaged starting from the planning phase of a product. So when any product or project is initiated, you will be contacted for as a person, the go-to person to understand what are the contents I'm delivering, how I should be doing it, and what are the different methods that are available, which distribution platforms I should be looking for, things like this, and also ensuring if the contents are accessible to the customer, how I can give them, how I can deliver it to the customer, and if they see any issue, what is the process they should follow. And it's like really, being a release engineer, you will be evangelizing on the software delivery processes that are used, and you will be kind of provide a consultancy to the products on how they can really go forward, and once they deliver the products, and how will it look like in the market, and how the customer will see it. Say, for example, when you distribute it as a Docker image or ISOs or any other RPMs or anything, how are we going to kind of package it and make it reachable to the customer? So that's what we work with on that. And on another note, we also develop tools. We kind of keep a track of what are the different products that are coming in, what different methods they are using. Is our tool supporting those build environments, test environments, and the test frameworks, or anything that they're following? Does our tool support it, or do we need to come up with something new and support their processes? And we think in all these different ways and try to make the release as smooth as possible for them. So I think that's all I had to say. And if anyone is interested in release engineering and to know more about it, you can contact me on this. So any questions? Yep.
Do you always take care of the same packages, kind of like a Fedora maintainer, or do you get to pick what package to?
Actually, we have a choice which product we would like to work on, and it's not like only one product. You might be interested to work on many, so it is up to you to choose. And it's not only RPMs or anything, that you can explore other options too. Yeah. Any other? So that's it. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Use that one. Try to use this one. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikolai Kondrashov. I work at Identity Management and Security Group at Red Hat, and I'm here to present about a project we are doing for a while now, and what is going to happen, and what's exciting about it. And doesn't work. I don't know. It is apparently. It must be the other way. Yeah, thanks. That's better. So the idea is that many companies have, especially big companies, have contractors and peripheral sysadmins with which they don't have really big trust, and which come in just for a while, but need to access their privileged systems and have privileged access to some critical stuff. Also, some government organizations, at least in US, are required by law to present recordings of user sessions for review. So we are trying to build an open source system to handle that. There's plenty of commercial systems. One of the bigger ones is Centrify, and there is plenty. Just looking on the internet, I found 8 products which are more or less fulfilling that role, and they are pretty good. Most of them, they have centralized servers to store the recordings, to search them, to play them back with various speeds and rewinding and look for comments which user entered at this point and just rewind to that point in the recording, and it's like magic. They are pretty good, but on the open source side, there's really nothing good. Really not a product for that. There is sudo that allows to record user sessions, like the privileged access into local files, but there is no way to deliver to the servers, like no built-in way. There is no integration with user management or anything. There are some tools that allow like central recording, like Teammate.io or AskKinema or ShowTerm, where you can upload your session somewhere to a single place, but it's obviously not suitable for security purposes. So really, there is nothing that is fulfilling that role in open source world, and that's where we come in. So we are working on exactly the stuff that the commercial solutions provide, but we are doing it the open source way. We are doing everything from open source components, and we are open sourcing everything that we are doing extra. Naturally, we are using the stuff that we have in our identity management team. So we're planning on using FreeIPA as the central management system on the servers. And on the client side, we are using SSSD, which is going to control session recording itself, configure everything, and control who is recorded, how he or she is recorded, etc. So everyone probably knows what AuditD is. It's for those who doesn't know, it is a system that gets some messages from the kernel and records what user accessed what and what syscalls were invoked, and etc., which we can use to record what commands the user executed and exactly what files were accessed, and apply filters to which files we want to track, etc. That's good, but there is really no good terminal recording solution, no program that allows to record what user did on the terminal, what he saw on the terminal, what he typed in, and what was displayed for him. There is the script, the sudo, but they are not integrating well with central delivery. That's why we are implementing this thing, and I am the one implementing it right now. So it's a tool that basically gets in front of the user's shell, records whatever passes between the shell and the user terminal, and logs that in JSON to wherever we want. So, for example, there is a user session. user trying to execute a command as sudo, and below is what gets logged to syslog at the moment. And as shown as on the previous picture, eventually from the log server it gets to Elasticsearch, which would allow us to search everything, to visualize everything, and eventually display that in Kibana. And our current idea is to get playback visualization, to get a nice playback with rewinding and everything in Kibana as good as possible. We have no idea if that's going to work, but we are going to try it. So, back to that. This is how it would look in Kibana, just viewing the JSON. So that's the same message. That's the same log message that we saw in the previous slide. And the current plan is to get this to Fedora this year, later to release it as tech preview in RHEL, and then get more of that. That's it. Any questions? The idea is to get tlog to run on the special user. It will be set UID, and when user logs in, it becomes a different user, starts logging, then forks, then drops back to the original user and starts the shell. So it runs on the different user. Of course, it doesn't help with root, but nothing helps against root. If we want to log root, we will probably be using jump servers, where the user will have to log into one server, but he doesn't have the root privileges, and then he logs into the target server, and the intermediate session is logged.
I think could you implement something like, I know about the centralized thing, but about the screen, just line screen for the user simply.
Screen?
Yeah, screen and output to the file.
The thing is that you can't stream that. And with tlog, you can stream that. You can deliver these log messages as they go. You just cut in pieces. There's a time limit when they get logged, and that can get delivered immediately to Elasticsearch, where you can search it within 5 minutes. And that link below has a video demo of how that happens. And there is a demo how that works, basically.
How does it handle tmax session, for example? If I log in, tlog D starts.
Yep.
Then I run tmax, and in tmax I have few windows. So how it handle it?
Exactly how you see it on the screen. What you see on the screen gets logged.
May I refer to it?
Yeah, sure.
Try to imagine how it's like either SSI session or Vim session or stuff like that.
It's perfectly fine. It's all preserved, and it's yeah.
I actually did something like this, but I came to show that every password that I type, it's also in logs and it's in plain text. This is a big problem for me because there is a shadow that is trying to hide my passwords and hashes, and so I have to do a little workaround. How this deal with that? It just saves passwords in plain text.
Yes, it's a problem. There will be an option to not log the user input, only the user output, but we'll still log commands executed as part of audit-d log. So we can just skip input.
If you're interested, my solution was just pitching some comments that was known to ask for password, and then didn't log for some time after user typed.
We would really, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. We can talk personally. Thanks a lot.
This one. that looks good. So it's me between you and the beer, so I'll try to do that quickly. This is a motivation a talk and a short how-to to do what I'm trying to motivate you to, and that is testing the kernel. So why help testing the kernel? There really is a lot of computer hardware out there. You know that every year there's a new notebook and a successor, and printers get there out every new year. So that's something the kernel needs to support, and that gets even more complicated because hardware components can be combined in zillion ways, zillion number of ways, and that influences how Linux deals with it. Even what does makes the situation even more bad is that firmware sometimes influences Linux compatibility too, and the config you use in your kernel, or the config the distro uses in your kernel, influences it also. So in the end, most systems are quite unique, and maybe just in the stack that you have, there is something where a bug shows up, and then that bug will show up and annoy you and others. And that will happen even more quickly if you have really unique hardware. That's kind of if you're using a 5 or 6 year old graphics card nobody else uses anymore, or was kind of special even back when it was new. So if you don't test that, those new kernels on your hardware, nobody might. And hardware specific bugs might only be found when they are really old, so maybe like 2 or 3 months old, but depending on your distribution, it can even be 1 or 2 years old. And the problem with that is finding and fixing the root cause of those bugs gets really harder the older a bug gets. It sometimes can even get nearly impossible if you have a kind of 6-year-old graphics cards and maybe there was a bug in the driver, it didn't compile, and the kernel developer said, okay, here, the code didn't compile for 2 years, it seems nobody used it anymore, then they throw it out. So if you switch from Ubuntu 14.04 to the next one that's coming out in April, you suddenly might notice, oh, the driver that I used to use until now is gone. And then you bringing it back is really hard, and then you are annoyed and you have to live with it and find a different solution. That's why you need to test. It's in your own interest. Are there risks? Not too many old kernels get normally installed. They stay installed when you're installing a new kernel. So you can always go back to the old kernel and boot that instead. And new kernels normally are always backwards compatible. So there shouldn't be any problems with the new kernel. Is there a risk of data loss? It's quite unlikely. That's a short version. Unlikely, on the other hand, says, yes, of course, it can happen, but it doesn't happen that often. So it's not something you should, it's something you should keep in mind, but it's not a reason to not test, because otherwise nobody will test, and in the end your hardware won't work anymore. So how to test? If you're a Fedora user, run Fedora Rawhide. The kernels used in Fedora Rawhide are pretty close to what Upstream is developing right now in the mainline kernel. It's maybe 1 or 2 days behind mainline kernel most of the time. There are a few Fedora-specific patches in the Rawhide RPMs, but it's compared to other distributions that are just a few. So if you report the problems to the Fedora developers or Upstream, then it's normally not a problem that you have a kernel that had extra patches in it. There are a few situations, but then the developers will tell you how to test it. If you're not running Rawhide because you think it's too unstable or something like that, then you can also most of the time run the Rawhide kernel on the latest Fedora release. That works most of the time. I've heard that it right now doesn't work due to some dependency. There are always ways to get around it. But if it works, you can grab it with DNF on the command line or from Koji directly and install the RPMs. It's quite easy. As I indicated already, there are different ways. So there's a second way, and that's actually why I'm giving the talk. I'm maintaining a Fedora repository where I can get vanilla kernel RPMs and run them on Fedora without compiling them yourself. There's actually a page in the Fedora wiki that explains how to use it. Actually, the two important commands are in the screenshot already. I've put them here as well, but you can find them in the wiki. And if you're Googling for kernel vanilla repositories for Fedora, then Google will get you there in case you forget to write down the URL. And yes, I'm running those kernels myself on my notebook to help testing the kernel. And I've never run into any bad bugs until now, but I've found a few bugs that I helped to debug and track down, and something that got fixed before they were hitting you and other Linux users. Similar repositories like this one are available for other distributions, so at least for the big ones. So if you want to go down that road, just search for your distribution and vanilla kernels. The third way is simply doing it manually. That's quite easy. You download and extract the latest kernel sources, run these two commands. That actually is a backslash there, whatever. That creates a configuration depending that's based on your old distribution kernel configuration, and then throws everything out which seems to not be needed. So all the modules that are not loaded, basically, and then compiles this. On my ThinkPad T420, that's like 4 years old now. That takes just 12 minutes, and then this kernel is ready. Just running an install command, rebooting, and yeah, profit. And it's there. You can boot it and check if everything works. And if it doesn't, you can report bugs. That's the main part. I guess time runs out soon. I have actually questions, like for example, how to get rid of those kernels again that didn't fit into this talk. Normally, it's not a problem. RPMs you can just deinstall, and the kernels that you installed manually are quickly deleted from the file system. It's not that hard. I'm putting them up here, but maybe you have questions already. For the kernels I compile myself, actually that's on my to-do list. But I boot those kernels once in a QEMU and check if that comes up probably. Normally I only publish them if they are booting, they're fine.
That's my question.
The one where and how to report bugs?
Yeah, I mean, if you're testing Fedora Rawhide, then you can do it on the Red Hat console, but should you also cross-post on the
That depends on how specific the bug is. I mean, there are, as I said, zillions of hardware out there and combinations, and if it's something like an audio codec on your specific machine that likely nobody else has, then it's not that at the top of the to-do list for the Fedora kernel developers. So you might be better off getting the upstream there, because the developer of the driver knows more how to fix it and what might be wrong. Yeah, but not all the developers use it. That's also the short version. I could do this talk, I guess, in 1 hour, and there are still things to talk about.